Hello there, my name is Dr. Paul Whickman. I'm a senior lecturer in English at the University of Derby, and today I'm going to offer you some top tips helping you in preparing for your exams, writing about poetry, although literature in general, and forming compelling arguments about them. So this is the poem we're going to work through today. It's a poem by Williams Wordsworth, and it often goes by the title, "A slumber did my spirit seal." A slumber did my spirit seal, I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly years. No motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees. Rolled round in earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. First, I'd like to introduce you to someone who is helping me today.
Hi, I'm Meg. I'm in second year of studying English.
So, Meg, what are your thoughts about this poem?
There's a lot of connection to Mother Nature just reading the poem, and you can see representation of life and death.
Okay, so there's a couple of, interesting responses you can make straight away, but we want to take these responses and see if we can formulate an argument, make something quite compelling. There is so much to say about this poem, but we are going to focus on only a small aspect today, in fact, only a handful of words. Now, we need evidence to support our claims. Evidence in English literature can simply be the language of the text that we are writing on. This is called primary evidence or a primary source. Just to start off with, what particular word in the first stanza do you find quite striking?
I think definitely human and thing stand out, and it suggests that the poet has a human figure, but then there's also the female thing figure as well.
Okay, so there's a kind of distinction between a human and a thing.
Yeah.
What other words strike you about this?
Feel and touch suggest that there's literally the physical side of things, but there's also the emotional connection too.
Okay, that's a really good point. So we have already identified 4 single words that strike us as interesting. Let's try and do something with this. I think from these 4 words we can make 2 different but connected points. Are we really satisfied that the poet is human and that the she is a thing? Is there anything that might unsettle what we initially suggested, Meg, do you think?
Well, the female being a thing is quite a strong idea, and we can see that throughout the poem, but the human not having any fears suggests that he also might be a thing too.
Well, exactly, and not only that, she only seems to be a thing, right? Thank you very much, Meg. Thanks for helping us today.
Thank you.
So, let's work through the first point, 2 words that we identified, and create a sentence around it. The poem distinguishes a human poet who has no human fears from the female figure described as a thing. Here, we can see how our evidence, i.e. the quotations from the text, has been integrated within the sentences in order to support the assertion or point that we are making. We'll come back to this shortly. Now, what might we say about feel and touch? And how can we connect this point to the previous one? Well, here's a sentence we could put together. This female figure also does not feel the touch of earthly years, indicating that they are no longer of this earth. Again, note here how we've integrated our quotations, our evidence, within the argument or point we are making. We have made 2 well-evidenced points which say something about the poem, but I think we'd both agree that these points are just the start. We are doing, are we not, little more than describing what the poem says, rather than analyse and explaining it. A top tip I have for you then, in order to help develop your arguments and make them much more compelling, is to take the time to ask yourself the question, why does this matter? Or, as I commonly write on my students' papers, what are the implications of what you have said? For example, who cares that there is a human thing split in this poem? How does this affect the meaning of the poem? Perhaps we can build on what we have already written to say something more interesting and sophisticated. Well, let's revisit the poem. Are we really satisfied that the poet is human and that the she is a thing? Is there anything that might unsettle what we initially suggested? Note that the female figure only seems to be a thing. Also, while we read human fears earlier as indicating the humanity of the poet, The fact he doesn't have them seems in fact to indicate the opposite. Now, this is important. This doesn't undo what was argued earlier, and it isn't necessarily a contradiction. Instead, this helps to acknowledge the poem's complexity, and that, by recognizing it, you are comfortable with this. In fact, this might be the very point of the poem. This is another top tip of mine. Try and learn to be comfortable with complex arguments or by not getting a text straight away. There is still something interesting to say about what you can grasp. Let's add to what we began earlier. The poem distinguishes a human poet who has no human fears from the female figure described as a thing. However, under closer examination, the distinction between the two breaks down. The poet does not have these human fears, suggesting he is not human after all, while the female figure only seems to be a thing. Hopefully you can see this does not contradict as such, but actually adds additional complexity to your reading, demonstrating an awareness of the poem's own richness and your own nuance. Regarding the point we made earlier about touch and feel, is there anything else we can say? What's weird about them here? Feel and touch seems to suggest something physical. You feel and indeed touch with your fingers, but we also feel emotions and can be touched by, for example, a kind gesture. Perhaps then the poem plays with this double meaning. It exploits the ambiguity of language. How can we say something about this? This female figure also does not feel the touch of earthly years, indicating that they are no longer of this earth. At the same time, the words feel and touch are ambiguous and can equally refer both to physical sensation and non-physical feeling. But why does this matter? Perhaps its very lack of certainty is the point. It adds greater uncertainty, therefore, to our understanding of what this figure might actually be. So we've made a point, we've developed it, and we've explored the implications a bit more. We've done more than just describe what the poem says on the surface. We've evaluated and analysed and considered why this matters, helping to build an argument. Let's put what we've written all together. By considering 4 words, then, we've managed to write a whole small paragraph. The poem distinguishes a human poet who has no human fears from the female figure described as a thing. However, under closer examination, the distinction between the two breaks down. The poet does not have these human fears, suggesting he is not human after all, while the female figure only seems to be a thing. This female figure also does not feel the touch of earthly years, indicating that they are no longer of this earth. At the same time, the words feel and touch are ambiguous and can equally refer both to physical sensation and non-physical feeling. It adds greater uncertainty, therefore, to our understanding of what this figure might actually be. So, to sum up, you've probably heard of this acronym, PEEL, P-E-E-L. Let's go through this. P, point. What point are you trying to argue? Now, in order to make this point, you need evidence. Back up with quotations or other textual evidence to support your point. A top tip that I have, show, not tell. You need to show with evidence, backing up your assertions. Don't just tell me what the poem is about. You have to show me with evidence. And the next E is explain. Don't just describe what's there. Explain and analyse why this matters. And that question again, what are the implications? Who cares, right? Why does it matter? And finally, link. Use linking language between your points, helping to structure your argument and build together that paragraph we got towards at the end. Be sure to integrate your evidence, which in this context means the quotations from the text, within the flow of a sentence, so it flows elegantly within a sentence. Be comfortable with complexity. It doesn't matter if you find it hard, and perhaps that is the very point. Nuance and complexity is not contradiction. Hopefully these top tips have proven useful and that you're able to write compelling arguments about poetry and to formulate arguments in your writing from now on. If you need any further tips and support, do look at our website. But all the best and all good luck for your exams or for any writing you intend to be doing.